The church bells rang slowly over the small snowy town of San Miguel. It was a quiet place, the kind where everyone knew everyone, and secrets rarely stayed hidden. Yet the wedding that day was the only topic people whispered about in every corner. Because no one understood why Sofia had agreed to marry him. Sofia was only 22. Gentle eyes, soft voice, the type of girl who apologized even when someone else bumped into her. She had grown up poor, raised by a sick mother she cared for until the woman passed away the previous winter. Since then, Sofia lived alone in a small rented room, above a bakery and worked long hours sewing dresses for wealthy families. And then there was Daniel Reyes, 36, quiet, always alone. People didn't dislike Daniel, but they feared his sadness. He lived in a large house at the edge of town, inherited from his parents, yet he never smiled. He rarely spoke more than necessary. Every Sunday he sat in the last row of the church, staring at the same stained glass window, as if waiting for someone who would never return. Some said he had once loved a woman deeply. Some said she had died. Some said she left him. But Daniel never confirmed anything. So when suddenly the priest announced, "Next week we will celebrate the union of Daniel Reyes and Sofia Herrera," the entire town froze. People assumed it was a business arrangement. Some believed he paid her. Others pitied her. But no one knew the truth. The proposal. 3 months earlier, Sofia was closing the sewing shop late at night when a storm began. Rain hit the roof violently and wind pushed the door open. She rushed to close it and saw Daniel standing outside, completely soaked. He looked exhausted. "Señor Reyes?" she asked softly. "I'm sorry. The tailor is closed everywhere. I need a repair tonight." His voice wasn't cold. It was tired. She let him inside. While sewing his torn coat sleeve, she noticed his hands shaking. Not from cold, from something deeper. "You shouldn't walk alone in this weather," she said kindly. Daniel watched her carefully for a long moment and then quietly asked, "Do you believe two strangers can save each other?" Sofia didn't laugh. She simply answered, "Yes, sometimes strangers are kinder than people we know." That was the first time Daniel looked directly into someone's eyes in years. He returned the next day, then again the next week. He never flirted, never crossed a line. He simply sat while she worked and spoke little by little about life, not his past, but his loneliness. And Sofia listened. For the first time since her mother died, she didn't feel alone either. Then one evening he placed a small velvet box on the table. "I don't love you yet," Daniel said honestly, "and I won't lie to you. But I respect you. I trust you. And I think, with time, we could give each other a home instead of an empty house." Sofia's hands trembled. "Why me?" "Because when you speak to me, I feel like I'm still a person, not a memory." After a long silence, she whispered, "I'm afraid." "So am I." That was the moment she said yes. The wedding night. Back to the present. The ceremony ended quietly. Sofia wore a simple white dress she had sewn herself. No luxury, no music band, only a few candles and soft choir singing. When they arrived at Daniel's house that night, the air was heavy with awkward silence. This was no fairy tale wedding. They were strangers, now husband and wife. Daniel opened the bedroom door but stopped. "You can take the bed," he said gently. "I'll sleep in the study. I don't want you to feel pressured." Sofia's heart tightened. All day the townspeople's whispers echoed in her mind. "He married you out of pity. You sold yourself. He will treat you coldly." Yet here he was, giving her space. She slowly held his sleeve. "Daniel, wait." He turned. Her voice trembled, barely a whisper. "Me duele. Hoy es mi primera vez." She wasn't speaking about intimacy. She meant something deeper. "My first night, not being alone." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know how to be a wife. I don't know what you expect. I'm scared I'll disappoint you." Daniel's expression changed. Not desire, but realization. He stepped closer but kept distance. He hesitated, then spoke honestly. "I don't know how to be a husband either." He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his hands. "The last person I loved died in this room 5 years ago. Since then, I never entered this house without feeling guilt for being alive." Sofia froze. "You don't have to replace anyone," she said softly. "I know," he replied, "but I don't want you to live with a ghost." Silence filled the room. Then Sofia did something unexpected. She sat beside him, not touching, just close. Two lonely people sharing space. No romance, no pressure, just presence. After a long pause, she smiled faintly. "We can start small, like neighbors." Daniel let out the first quiet laugh he'd had in years. Neighbors sound safe. They stayed awake talking until dawn, about favorite foods, childhood memories, silly fears. At sunrise, they had not held hands once, yet both felt lighter. And outside the window, snow stopped falling. For the first time in 5 years, Daniel didn't see the house as a grave. He saw it as a beginning. Morning sunlight entered the house slowly, touching the old wooden floors that had not felt warmth for many years. Sophia woke up on the bed, but for a moment she didn't remember where she was. The room was unfamiliar, large, quiet, peaceful. Then she remembered. She was married. Not a dream. Not temporary. She sat up nervously, fixing her hair. She expected awkwardness, maybe distance. But when she opened the bedroom door, she smelled something unexpected. Coffee. She walked toward the kitchen and stopped at the doorway. Daniel was there, trying to cook. The pan was slightly burned, the eggs were uneven, and the coffee had probably too much sugar. He clearly wasn't used to doing this. When he noticed her, he straightened immediately like a child caught doing something wrong. "I didn't know what you like," he said. "So I made everything." Sophia stared at the table. 2 plates, 2 cups, a small vase with a single flower he must have picked from the garden. No one had ever prepared breakfast for her in her life. Her eyes filled with tears, but she smiled instead. "It looks perfect." They sat in silence at first, but not uncomfortable silence. It was gentle, almost peaceful. For the first time, the house sounded alive. But peace rarely stays long. The visit. 3 days later, the town found its chance to interfere. Sophia went to the market alone. She wanted to buy vegetables and finally greet people properly as Daniel's wife. Instead, conversation stopped when she arrived. Women whispered, men avoided eye contact. Then the baker's wife approached her carefully. "You didn't know?" she asked. "Know what?" The woman hesitated. Daniel was married before. Sophia nodded softly. "Yes, he told me she passed away." The woman's face tightened. "That's not the whole story." Sophia's heart sank. "She didn't just die. The night she died, they argued, loudly. The neighbors heard shouting. The next morning she was found at the bottom of the stairs. The vegetables slipped from Sophia's hands. People said it was an accident. The woman whispered, "But others believe." Guilt lives in that house for a reason. Sophia couldn't breathe. The words echoed in her head the entire walk home. Every step toward the house suddenly felt heavier, the locked door. When she returned, Daniel was in the garden fixing a broken fence. He smiled slightly when he saw her, but she noticed something for the first time. He looked nervous. Not because of her, because she had gone into town. Sophia forced herself to remain calm. That night she couldn't sleep. The house felt different. Not warm anymore, not safe. Her mind replayed the whispers again and again. Then she heard something. A faint sound from the hallway. Daniel wasn't beside her. She quietly followed the sound and saw a dim light under a door at the end of the corridor. A door she had never seen open. The handle was locked, but she heard Daniel's voice inside. Soft, broken. "I didn't mean it. I never meant for you to fall." Sophia's blood froze. Her hand trembled. She stepped back. But the wooden floor creaked. The voice stopped. The door opened slowly. Daniel stood there pale, his eyes filled with fear. Not anger, not guilt. Fear of losing her. "You weren't supposed to hear that," he whispered. Sophia's voice shook. "What happened that night?" For a long moment he said nothing. Then he finally spoke. "The truth? My wife Elena was sick," he said, quietly. "Not physically, inside, depression. She believed she was a burden to me. I tried to help her, but she thought I pitied her." He struggled to continue. "That night she told me she wanted to leave forever. I begged her not to talk like that. We argued. I raised my voice. The only time I ever did." His hands trembled. She ran upstairs crying. I followed, but she slipped at the top step. I reached for her, but I was too late. Tears fell down his face. I didn't push her, but my words pushed her heart. And I have lived every day believing I caused it. Sophia felt her own tears fall. All his loneliness, all his silence, all his distance. It wasn't a dark secret. It was a man punishing himself. "I stayed alone because I thought I didn't deserve happiness," he whispered. "Until you." Sophia stepped closer. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because if you heard rumors first, you would run, and I wouldn't blame you." Silence filled the hallway. Then she did something he never expected. She hugged him. Not as a wife, not as a duty, as a person who understood pain. "You didn't kill her," she said softly. "You survived her loss." Daniel broke completely in that moment. Years of guilt left him in tears he had never allowed himself to cry. And for the first time, he wasn't alone while crying. The choice. The next Sunday they walked into church together. The whispers began again. But this time Sophia didn't lower her eyes. She held Daniel's hand. The priest smiled warmly. The townspeople slowly understood something they had misjudged. This marriage was not a transaction. It was healing. That night Daniel spoke quietly to her. I can't promise a perfect life. Sophia smiled gently. I don't want perfect. I want real. He hesitated. And I think I finally know what my answer was that night. What answer? He looked at her with peace in his eyes. When you said it was your first time not being alone. I didn't finish my sentence. She waited. He held her hand carefully. Yo tampoco. Me neither. Not passion. Not desire. Belonging. And in that quiet house that once held grief, laughter finally existed. Snow fell again outside, but this time it no longer felt cold. Because two lonely lives had finally become a home.